What is up? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Happy Sunday. All right, cool. We have people in here. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? How's it going? Hmm? How's it going? Got to turn my own chat off. I actually have like a thing of the stream over here so that I can actually see what's going on as things occur. Let's see if I can adjust these windows so that I'm not looking at myself move around. That's gonna get weird like really quickly. All right, cool. So first thing I gotta do is I need to, ooh, pop out chat. That sounds much better. Hell yeah, let's do that. And need to share this. Dang. Well, I would really like to be able to just like share this from my PC. Is that not possible? That would be so lame. Oh, there we go. Heyo. Cool. Gonna post this to my Twitter real quick. Gonna post this to High Fashion Talk real quick. Blammo. Done. Pull that chat of you cool people back up. Then we can nix these pages out. So we're gonna be talking about Couture Week right now, which is pretty cool. The thing that I really, oh, actually, so we have two devices right now. We're gonna go live on Instagram and on YouTube. So let me, what's up? What's up, everybody? So we're live on both right now. I don't know. Figure like when I can, I try to stream on the IG as well, even though like the streaming capabilities there are pretty limited. But yeah, what's up, IG people? Hello. I'm streaming on both YouTube and on Instagram. So I mostly will be focusing my attention this way, but it's not because I don't like you guys. It's just because, you know, I'm over there. And because this one is actually being recorded and posted permanently on the channel. So we're going to be talking about Paris Couture Week this week. And yeah, usually the live streams are a lot more conversational, where like kind of everybody is sort of talking to each other. And you said ghost bliss. Ghost bliss. Usually the conversation topics are set by the people that are on the Patreon, and so they're on the Discord. And everybody who is $9 and above per month gets to set topics that we talk about during the live stream, which is cool. But like, of course, everybody, even the lowest tier, which is $3 a month, everybody gets to be on the Discord channel. Everybody should definitely join that. It's just patreon.com/Bliss Foster. That is kind of the only way that this thing makes money, to be totally frank. Yeah, you like my feather? Lindsay like picked that up a while ago, and we now use it as decoration. It's actually like embedded into a plant, but but yeah, we use it as decoration. And both of us were told by our parents all the time, you can't have bird feathers. They're beautiful and natural, but they're filthy. You cannot bring one home. And now we're adults. We can do whatever we want. I can even have this bird feather like directly in my face while I do a live stream. I can do whatever I want. I'm 30 years old. Let's get into these reviews. So the Paris Haute Couture Week schedule for this week, or for this year, for this season, was a total of 36 shows. What we're going to do is we're going to cover all of the ones that were covered by Vogue. I will say that the theory that I've been given is that when shows get covered, if they're on the official calendar, so if something is officially part of whatever fashion week and it's not getting covered by Vogue, like in a review, that means that that brand is being snubbed for some reason. Usually that means that they're not paying for some kind of advertising with Vogue. But that's just a theory I heard, but I can throw that out there. Because there's so many fewer shows here than there were in just regular Paris Fashion Week, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and I'm actually going to read the reviews out loud before we look through the collections. So for anybody following along, if you just pull up Vogue.com and you open up the Spring 2020 Couture section. It's under the runway section. It has all shows listed alphabetically. That, of course, does not mean all shows. They covered 22 shows. There were actually 36 shows, so we're missing 14 of them. But I figure we're going to hit on the really the heavy stuff, like the final Jean-Paul Gaultier, Gaultier, Viktor, and Rolf. I'm going to go ahead and set you guys up right now for some information here. I am pretty terrible at my pronunciation in French and Italian, and I'm going to just go ahead and let you know right now that I'm going to get a lot of these names probably very, very wrong. So, hey, just got a new Patreon person. What's up, Brent? Brent Morales, thank you so much. Oh, yeah, and of course, speaking of Patreon, Brent, you are a G. Thank you so much, wherever you are. Whichever stream you happen to appear on, Brent, I love you so much, unconditionally, even if you hadn't given me $9 a month. The goal for this week is for us to land 6 Patreon subscribers by the end of it. So that was one right there. Thank you so much, Brent. Thank you for setting us off on a good start, setting a good example for everybody. I really appreciate it. Okay, cool. Let's get cracking. First one is going to be, we're just doing alphabetical order straight all the way down from Vogue.com in the runway section. Alberta Ferretti. And that is, I guess we're just going to start by me reading the actual description here that they wrote. Because I actually missed out on the Paris Fashion Week review thing where we went through every show. I missed out on some pretty crucial stuff, like the fact that the Acne show was apparently designed by AI. And that seems pretty important because I was just over here like an idiot being like, yeah, this is a pretty laid-back collection for them. Okay, cool. I like it well enough. Next show. Totally missing the pretty crucial things. So, again, we're covering Alberta Ferretti. Evening wear has always been Alberta Ferretti's forte, her mix of sensuality and delicacy, proving a winning proposition. She likes women to be beautiful, and who doesn't want to look her best and feel special in a dreamy chiffon dress? But seduction is a game that has to be played subtly. Ferretti likes to suggest rather than reveal. Quote, women want to feel at ease even when they dress for special occasions, end quote, said the designer. For her limited edition collection, she indulged in her flair for luxe and embellishments, proposing a sense of glamour without detracting from comfort. Being a woman designing for women, she worked on beautifying body-friendly shapes, proposing 2 opposite silhouettes. One was sculptural and structured using substantial silk duchesse. This is Bliss here. Silk duchesse is generally regarded as like the nicest possible thing that you can make a garment out of. There's really not a whole lot of stuff made of silk duchesse anymore, but it's a very, very nice. Using substantial silk duchesse in bright colors to give impact to voluminous shapes. The other was ethereal and fluid. Quote, chiffon is my favorite fabric, she explained. It makes dresses almost fly when they move. It gives them wings. She offered a series of sensual flimsy numbers with layers of silk georgette caressing the silhouette and plays of loose panels and draping to keep shapes interesting. Ferretti loves embellishments, but here she didn't overdo her passion for a bit of sparkle, yet a shapely black evening tuxedo was all over embroidered and dripping with sequins. The leopard cannot change its spots. Cool. So it sounds like we got a good woman designing for other women thing here. This is not a runway show. They presented a lookbook. But yeah, this is looking like evening wear that we are going to definitely be seeing on some red carpets. And it's always a really interesting design challenge, in my opinion, when someone is able to cover both like young women looking really sexy in something and something that is for sure going to play well on someone who is also really beautiful but happens to be 50 years old. And here she seems to be designing a lot for, her client seems to generally be older. The model that they're using here obviously is like 20 and gorgeous. But this stuff looks very contemporary while still being something that's going to work for somebody who doesn't quite feel comfortable like showing like all of their arms or whatever. Yeah, this stuff is pretty. It's formal wear. I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about it. They got kind of crazy on one of them, this sort of like color blocked piece and these really like sparkly sparkly materials. I imagine that's the silk de chasse. But yeah, I mean, really luxurious stuff that's very wearable. Next show. Alexandra Vautier. We'll say Vautier. The review here, it's about 4 paragraphs. It reads, individuality is the mot d'ordre in fashion today as it is in the world at large. We are all mini universes unto ourselves, and we celebrate that constantly in as many ways as possible, with as many self-expressive tools as possible, for better or and for worse. As far as designers are concerned, this mindset has given them freedom to go in as many creative directions as they like, often within the same collection. Coherence, or at least a certain cohesive style quality, has somehow become an overlooked thing of the past. Alexandra Vautier's couture collection tapped right into this zeitgeisty mood. Quote, had a Vogue ad pop up there. Quote, it's almost a story of personages, he explained backstage before today's show. Women have very diverse horizons, and their uniqueness is what constantly inspires me, end quote. He worked on a rather extensive variety of shapes and volumes, sharp tailoring, and robes, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Ethereal flow and ultra-theatrical volumes, and goddess-like draping and profusions of ruffles all played against strong shoulders 80s mini dresses. Quote, I imagine the show as the famous surrealist Dinner de Têtes, Rothschild at the Chateau de Ferries in 1972, he explained, pointing out that the incredible headdress created by Philip Treacy, hyperboles of the sky-high exotic plumages or flame-shaped fascinators dripping in red glitter that you could have easily imagined in a Jean-Paul Gaude photograph of Grace Jones. Le Palais in the 1980s mood was also very much on Vautier's mind. The first look... Oh, that's a model's name. The first look on Vittoria Ceretti was an homage to the sharp yet sensuous elegance flavored by Paloma Picasso at the time, a black tuxedo worn on bare skin paired with gray harem pants in wool gabardine. I love wool gabardine. That's Bliss, by the way. I love wool gabardine. Throughout the collection, references to the 80s alternated with more classic tributes to the savoir-faire of couture ateliers. A sensational pouf mini dress was made of concentric swirls of feathers, courtesy of Plumassier, par excellence La Mer. No idea what that is. An austere white tie tailcoat with ample trousers gathered at the ankles could have suited the ambiguous charm of Tamara de Lempicka. A vast menagerie of a dress was made with ribbons of plissé, ruches in cerulean organza, its aristocratic debutante flair twisted by a pair of high-heeled boots dripping in silver glitter. The mashup of uber-chic disco queens and extravagant French princesses was definitely what the collection was about. Vautier knows pretty well that the essence of couture lies in the unlikely marriage of extravagance and chic. A pretty fabulous union indeed. All right, let's look at these clothes. By the way, I love the tuxedo against bare skin look on women. That is such a strong move. It is so beautiful. Yeah, this is a collection that's really interesting because they seem to be, with a few of these, they're kind of playing with the idea of what couture is, but they're not doing it in a vêtement kind of way where it's like sort of like slapping around the idea of couture. They're trying genuinely, and this looks pretty, a lot of it looks pretty earnest. It looks like we're having a little bit of fun with some of it, but generally this seems to be trying to sort of like expand the scope of what couture is capable of. Some of it, so we have some like kind of pilgrim looking looks with these like almost dickies that are like a little bit high on the neck and just sort of like cover the shoulders, and that's just a piece all on its own. And some of that looks, I guess, a little bit goofy next to like true evening wear dresses, but there's a lot of, like, this would look great on Lord. If Billie Eilish was to try to like really dress up for something, this seems like a very approachable way for her to do that. Yeah, and I mean some of this I think looks goofy in the context of this show, But I actually think a lot of these, when taken on their own, would look really sharp. And of course, the whole idea with couture is that we're dealing with stuff that just took hundreds of man hours to make, and Bella Hadid walked at the end of it. Good for them. Good for them. That's not a cheap move. Not a cheap move at all. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Hello. Okay. We're going to be looking at Armani Priva. Again, I don't know if that pronunciation is correct there, but yeah, Armani Priva. Oh, of course, my coffee's going to get cold like the instant I start the live stream. That's great. Sarah Mower covered this show. I like Sarah Mower a lot. She's a smart lady. The review reads, I'm excited about this one. The styling for this looks really sharp. And the hair looks really good. Yeah, this is going to be cool. Giorgio Armani started his couture collection with one of the trans-global explorations that have been dear to his heart throughout his storied career. ICAT, the textile pattern which is woven into the cultural histories of countries around the world and came into Western fashion via 1960s hippie travelers, was his theme. A takeoff point for what was essentially an extended journey into his own domain of Armani codes. Women who set store by Giorgio Armani come to him for the things that they can trust, the solutions offered by his decorative jackets, whether structured and tailored or delicately beaded, and for his expertise in providing evening wear that has boundless authority in equipping acting professionals through the awards season. For spring, he moved away from the structured deco glamour of his last collection, breaking down his pantsuits to become unmatched coordinates and blurring outlines with layers of transparency. There were narrow taffeta tracksuit pants and printed and beaded trousers, and around 30 variations of Armani jackets on show. Blazers, coat jackets, cropped cardigans, short-sleeved, waisted, zippered, buttonless. He had something here with the potential to suit any physique or age. For evening, Armani again went for what he knows his women will want as they line up on all those miles of red carpet that stretch ahead from the Academy Awards to the Met Gala, Cannes, and beyond. There were 17 strapless looks interspersed with camisole top dresses. But who's counting? The practical virtue of Armani's comprehensive system is that it never turns out that anyone ends up looking the same, as he respects the individual needs of his clients, so they reward him with loyalty and admiration. So this is sounding like it is going to be a very customer-friendly collection. And it is. And this looks cool. This is fine. It feels very strange, like, commenting on all this stuff. I'm doing this live stream. A big motivator for this is that if I'm sitting here and I'm looking through everything, hey, new Patreon, what's up, Leo? Probably over here. What's up, Leo? I love you so much. Thank you, Leo. That is 2 down, 4 more to go. You guys are incredible. In the chat, Michael Hode. What's up, Michael? I didn't even know you were in here. What's up, dude? It was like, quote, "This is fine," sums it up. It does feel a little bit weird. Thank you, Leo. Thank you very much. You're a G. And for anybody else who wants to follow Leo's excellent example, that is patreon.com/Bliss Foster. We got to knock out 4 more before we end this thing. Yeah, the thing that feels a little weird about this is that I want to learn, and I want to have all of this stuff. I want to be more exposed to this stuff. But me saying, like, this is good, this is bad, I don't think I'm really an authority on this stuff. Hey, what's up, Bird Girlfriend? I have not covered Iris yet. No, we're going in alphabetical order. I don't think that I'm a good authority for this. What we're mostly catering to is extremely successful, like, younger middle-aged women and, well, just, I mean, older women who are extremely successful. That is who all of this is catering to. And it feels a little weird for, like, 30-year-old dude who is like wearing an undercover jacket to just be like, not good, this one's okay, blah, blah. Like, I don't ever, I don't, if anyone's looking for me to like shit on any of these, I don't think we're going to get into that a whole lot. I mostly am just kind of wanting to understand what this is about. Look, for those who are actually like following along and want to get chapter and verse here, look 72 is sick. Like, that's very, very cool. There's a lot of this that like is very Peacock inspired, which is neat. I really like that we're kind of striking a balance with like, this is clearly catering to an older customer, but that this feels very contemporary. Some of it. There's a few things that feel a little, I'm a little confused about why certain things are getting referenced here. But yeah, a lot of this looks very, this looks like shockingly contemporary. This is cool. I really like this color palette, like in the teens. Color palette, the lighter wash color palette. Okay, cool. That was the Armani show. Who is next? Azzaro. 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 So, the review reads. For the past few seasons, the nimble fingers in the Azzaro studio have quietly tried to uphold the house's couture tradition with mixed results. Monday's outing was a case in point. The show notes spoke of time-honored flamboyant sensuousness and the assertive Epicurean Amazon who draws strength in her uniqueness. It went on to evoke fleshy, graphic, futurist flora and relentless tailoring. That's a lot to wrap your mind around. On the runway, there was certainly plenty of flesh and flora, plus Amazonian attitudes in spades. Excuse me. Some looks, such as the black deep V gown with the crystal belt that opened the show, or a long, tailored coat, neatly capturing the Azzaro spirit. It was also evident in some key details, like the draping on black or gold mini dresses that were otherwise far too brief. The Azzaro woman, as she existed in the designer's heyday, did not need to stoop to such tactics. It's harsh. Elsewhere, menswear stole some of the limelight. There was sharp tailoring and especially noteworthy shiny effects, like iridescent suiting paired with glinting oxblood trench or charcoal gray crystals placed in such a way as to evoke the moon's relief. That's kind of cool. After the show, Azzaro CEO Gabriel de Linage said that the house has been taking its time before appointing a new artistic director and that an announcement was finally imminent. Quote, "It's very close and it's an important step for the company," he said. "All of these collections have been a great way to go back to the archives and move forward to the future." Couture, he added, would remain in the backbone of the house for both men and women. While there is much to be said in praise of slow fashion, if recent history shows us anything, it's that the future arrives faster than anyone might have imagined. There's a boundary in space that astronomers call the event horizon, and for Azzaro, that horizon is now or never. Okay, so that is a negative review. Pretty scathing. And it sounds like a lot of the negativeness of that review comes from the house's history. Yeah, looking at it, I don't love it. A lot of this looks like stuff that would need to be seen in person. And since there is one of all of these things, that is, of course, not possible. I do like, this is the first show that we've covered here where like we got some men's stuff in it. The men's stuff is very wild. Jeffrey B. Small, I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, Jeffrey B. Small, I think, had the #1 most expensive single item in all of regular Paris Fashion Week. It was a $100,000 coat that had this crazy technique and dyeing process applied to it, like just very, very thorough piece there. And I think just pretty much that's the cruising altitude for all of these. Hey, we have our first completely see-through piece. There's just a model's naked body right there. Cool. That would be such a flex, like totally sheer dress that costs like $50,000 and you're like, I think I'll get this. I like how I look. I got $50,000. Let's get this. All right, so we got Bouchra Gerard up next. Then we got Ooh, we got a lot of really good stuff right after that. We got Chanel and Dior and Ellie Saab, like right after that. So stay tuned. Not that anybody's going anywhere. How many people we got in here? 42, 11? Not a ton of people. We got a little private engagement this week. That's nice. Bouchra Gerard. The review reads, I wanted to do fashion that resembles me, she said moments before her comeback show. Staged in her own luminous apartment with a slender sheaf of what? You know what? Here's what we're going to do, guys. I think we only really want to cover the shows. So if we're just doing lookbooks, I think we're going to skip on it. So let's just do the shows. Sorry, Miss Gerard. All right. Chanel. Let's do the Couture House. The Couture House, Chanel. Covered by the great and powerful Hamish Bowles. If you don't know who Hamish Bowles is, you should go find out. Hamish is a legend. Virginie Viard. Oh yeah, Virginie Viard's Chanel Haute Couture presentation. Virginie Viard is of course the one who took over. Of course, she's the one who took over after Karl Lagerfeld passed. Viard's Chanel Haute Couture presentation saw us in the romantically overgrown garden of a cloister set somewhat miraculously in the chilly immensity of the Paris Grand Palais. The setting suggested a key element in Gabrielle Coco Chanel's legendary story. Chanel was 11 years old when her mother died, and as her wayward father, a traveling salesman with a supposed wandering eye, was often away, it was decided that she would be sent to the convent of Aubazine in the remote French region of Corrèze? I don't know. Here, her unusual and impoverished situation meant that she was among the girls singled out to wear an austere black and white uniform, one that she would adopt through the years to dress the richest and most stylish women of her age. In imaginative retellings of her autobiography, Chanel would refer to the convent's strict and unforgiving nuns as aunts. These tastemakers nevertheless taught the young Chanel to sew and thus gave her the tools to forge a life as an independent woman for herself in later years. The aesthetic of the convent stayed with Chanel forever. Her distinguished future biographer Edmond Charles Roux saw in the designer's yearning for austerity, or in the moments when she waxed nostalgic for all things white, simple, clean, for linen piled high in cupboards and whitewashed walls. References to a secret code. In fact, Charles Roux posited every word meant only one word, Aubazine. Fully aware of the biographical significance of the convent in Chanel's life and to her aesthetic, Virginie Viard made a pilgrimage to Corrèze in a gloriously sunny day last September. Karl didn't like those things, Viard explained backstage as the collection as the models were lining up like so many well-behaved schoolgirls in their prim Claudine-collared coats and blouses and old-fashioned black patent schoolgirl shoes with built-in white ankle socks. He always said, "Oh, it's ugly, ugly." But I said to myself, I must do this. The visit proved inspirational. I loved it, Viard recalls. It was full of charm. In fact, she was so moved by the cloister's unkempt garden that she immediately decided to recreate it for the evocative decor of the haute couture set in the Grand Palais, creating an enclosure of dozens of antique linen sheets hung up as though freshly laundered by the girls and the nuns to dry in the breeze. The influence of those convent girls in their childhood home threaded through Viard's collection in subtle ways that showcase the incredible resources of the haute couture. Viard, for instance, developed a soft pastel woven and sequined fabric to evoke the Chanel stained glass windows, with motifs that famously incorporated what appeared to be linked circles forming C's from which Chanel, one may speculate, drew her iconic logo. The pastel was the only deviation from the palette of gray, black, mauve, cream, and white. The convent's unique stone floors, with their rough pebbles laid in a grid that resembled quilting, were evoked in trellises of embroidery tracing the shape of Peter Pan collars. One particularly beautiful example on a suit jacket of marled, stone-colored tweed turned out in the hand to have been worked with sequins cut from chiffon. The whole collection embraced the sobriety, lightness, and wearer-friendly ease that Viard is quickly making her personal signature at the house. I think it's good to make clothes for women in a summer spirit, she explained. It's so pleasant to go barefoot and wear a long skirt and a big cotton grandfather shirt or lace pieces. Viard captured that relaxed holiday spirit in wide swinging skirts or simple above the knee length versions in a suit jacket cut like a caban in an unfitted shift dress. The options reflect Viard's understanding of the needs of Chanel customers around the world. The refinement of the haute couture, meanwhile, do not reveal themselves at first glance. Many of the skirts, for instance, were paired with exquisite overskirts in filmy tulle that added extra length, but garlanded the lower leg in exquisitely embroidered fragile dandelion clocks or scattered meadow flowers or butterflies made from feathers. The roughness of the turn-of-the-century rustic clothing that Chanel would have been very familiar with was suggested in flare-skirted suit cut from wool that looked like woven string, and in the thick cotton-flowered laces used for dresses that seemed ready for First Communion, or in scintillating mauve ball gown with a top cut like a workman's apron. Gigi Hadid rocked a monastic black dress with pale collar and cuffs that closely resembled Chanel's school uniform. Although worn unbuttoned in front to the upper thigh in 2020, it had a thoroughly adult allure. That was a very long review, Hamish, but nice and detailed. So it looks like we're taking some inspiration from Coco Chanel's actual childhood, her life, her school. And yeah, that's what this looks like. And dang, this, I mean, not that this 30-year-old in Virginia would know, but like, this makes a lot of sense for Chanel. I think the whole idea there is that we're making like, yeah, just things that are like more like classically beautiful, and that's what this is. Dang. And she herself like has a really awesome outfit on at the end when she comes out for her little bow. Her outfit is sick. Yeah, this stuff is this is great. Carl, I don't know why you were so freaked out by this, man. He's looking up from hell right now being like, oh, I should have done it. It wasn't ugly. I don't know what accent that was supposed to be. But yeah, this seems to fit very cleanly into the overall aesthetic of Chanel. That works. Let's look at Dior. All right, so let's clear something up real quick, everybody. Hi there. I didn't see you. My name is Bliss, and I don't understand why everyone hates Maria Grazia Chiuri so much. I like her work. I like her work a lot. And I don't know. I'm a little confused. No one's ever really been able to explain it. Or all of the explanations I have heard for hating her work seem to mostly be saying, I didn't actually look at the show, or I don't know. I think a lot of people just want someone to hate in fashion, and being able to say the phrase like, oh, I hate Maria Grazia's Dior. Like, that just kind of makes you sound sort of smart. It's sort of like if you get if someone offers you like some really nice, like weird cheese or whatever, and you bite into it and you go, oh, that's a soft cheese. Like, you're not really saying anything about it. You're just like saying you're just saying something that sort of like gasses yourself up. Where it's like you feel like you're contributing something. Like, oh yeah, in fact, like I love fashion, but oh, I hate Maria Grazia's like Dior. I don't know. I've seen not a lot. I've seen a collection's worth of her clothes in the store. The final products are incredible, and they have like a great story. And like, I mean, I think most people are just kind of like, they either didn't look at the show and all they saw was just like the t-shirts that would like lead some of these shows, and they just were taking it from there and being like, I don't like t-shirts on runways, this is bad. And so I don't know. I have no problem with her stuff. So let's read. We have a much shorter review this time. Maria Grazia joins forces with Judy Chicago to realize a project that the great American second-wave feminist artist imagined for a public sculpture to maternal power back in 1977. So, on the first day of the couture season, we entered the birth canal of Chicago's installation, there to watch Chiuri summon a gold host of goddesses onto a womb-shaped runway. Over a 6-month gestation, Chiuri's conversation with Chicago birthed this idea about the pagan worship of goddesses and the struggle of women artists to find their own means of expression within the female-excluding patriarchal systems of Western art history. The relationship between creativity and femininity really touched me because I lived that in a personal way, Chiuri said. And when Judy talked about the idea of goddesses, my mind immediately came back to my memories of the statues in Rome, of Botticelli, my point of view that is more Italian, end quote. How could the practice of couture meld with feminist concepts? When it came down to it, Chiuri decided it lies in the relationship between fashion and the body. Okay, this is great. This is theory right here. When it comes down to it, Chiuri decided that the relationship between couture and feminism lies in the relationship between fashion and the body. Her key was the Greco-Roman peplos. Quote, it's something which you really drape and tie, which you define with your body, which takes care of you, she said. So it's very couture because in couture, we don't start with a pattern, we drape on a mannequin. So we drape on our clients. But I didn't want to just do it in dresses. I applied it to the tallures and the skirts as well because I want to speak about the heritage of the house, end quote. So there were the Dior goddesses walking in their Roman sandals, gilded and draped in luxurious handmade techniques the atelier can muster. She pointed out how the silken fringed dresses are conjured without stitching, every fine strand of thread braided and left to flow. That's pretty crazy. The infinite variety of what can be done with draped and twisted fabric came into play in diaphanous one-shoulder chiffon and twists of gold lame tissue. In white, there was a wrap-over floor-length pleated shirt dress and a blouse and a skirt knotted to one side. Taking the theory to suit, she opened necklines and dispensed with nipped and corseted waistlines. It ended with the outlying exception, a final piece embroidered with a sequined veiled moon, the powerful ancient symbol of female fedunctity. Fedunctity? Never read that word before. Chiuri wins approval for her constant amplification of feminist ideology and her inquiring mission to reach out to include a sense of global sisterhood across cultures. The Chicago womb was hung with banners posing questions, pieces embroidered by a woman's project in India. At the end of the catwalk, the question read, "What if women ruled the world?" Okay, so that's kind of the part of her work that a lot of people have criticized because it seems sort of immediate. No, I won't narrativize. We'll finish up. One more paragraph. We would certainly do it all differently, that's for sure. When it comes to the province of women's fashion, more radical thinking needs to be done. Ironically, menswear is opening up the parameters for expressing identity more quickly at the moment. It would be amazing to see Chiuri freeing herself further to break the boundaries of convention. The ritual of using young, same-size models is one. What if haute couture was really demonstrated as a celebration of women of all ages, shapes, and cultures? That would be modern goddess power incarnate. Yeah, that's a pretty good thought there. That also was a review from Sarah Mower, and Sarah herself is a goddess. She's pretty rocking. This is all, wow, yeah. Very, very apparent that we're heading to the red carpet with these. The womb shape is not readily apparent from these pictures. But trying to think of what to say. These look like they have some like really good movement to them. The really lightweight ones. I think she mentioned it was chiffon. Really lightweight chiffon. Very princessy. This is a little too, I don't know. For my personal taste, this is a little too like gladiator sandals as a dress kind of thing, in my opinion. Well, it's certainly doing better than Raph, so I don't know. Ellie Saab is next. Who we got? We got Gaultier and Givenchy coming up soon too. Stay tuned. Choop, choop, choop. Okay. All right. Just 3 paragraphs here for Ellie Saab. Bird Girlfriend said, I love me some biological essentialism in my runway shows. Love me some biological essentialism in my runway shows. Ellie Saab is no minimalist. You won't find practical day wear options in his couture collections. Today's show was an unabashed ode to a world of opulence that lives in dreams and fantasies, or on red carpets. The lengthy press notes provided a sort of narrative that referenced Mexico and its visual culture, particularly in the embroidered motifs lavish on almost every evening dress. The rather convoluted story went that a woman receives a letter summoning her to a castle in Mexico, suspended between dream and reality. She wanders about the place, obviously clad in the magnificent couture concoctions in which, quoting the notes, the regal past of both Europe and imperial Mexico are intertwined. Whew, this sounds like a perfume commercial. Not being particularly acquainted with Mexican heraldry, I had no basis for an opinion about the more or less faithful rendition of the designer gave of said imperial imagery, but that wasn't the point. What stood out was the golden shimmer the collection seemed to be bathed in. The dresses looked as if immersed in an uninterrupted stream of curly-cued embroideries, incrustations of florals and pearls, intarsiaed Baroque swirls. With embellishments of an imperial magnitude, shapes seemed not to differ much from one another, overwhelmed by ruffles, swirls of rosettes and bows. Silhouettes had fitted bodices and dramatic Elizabethan leg of mutton sleeves with trains and long capes adding to the majestic effect. Providing respite from such opulent visual overload, a series of beautifully sculpted silk duchesse gowns in jewel tones of chartreuse, coral, and turquoise, and the right mix of glamour and theatrical presence. They will surely be popular with many clients in Saab's front row. So, yeah. Do you guys like dramatic Elizabethan leg of mutton sleeves? I sure do. Wow, those sleeves are leg of mutton. Jeez. It's like I'm looking at 59 leg of mutton looks. Just kidding. Only like maybe a fourth of these actually have those leg of mutton sleeves. But, and to be fair, because I'm married to somebody who is obsessed with historical clothing, leg of mutton sleeves are pretty fucking sick, to be completely honest with you guys. This is cool. This is the first one I've looked at where I've been like, damn, that's neat. It just looks so... This seems to be visually demonstrating haute couture process in a very visual way. These dresses seem to be loudly communicating, like, this took a lot of time and skill and effort to make, which is cool. I don't know. I almost prefer, this just occurred to me, I almost prefer seeing these clothes on a model that I've never seen before, to my knowledge. Like, these models are doing their job in that they are kind of these beautiful anonymous figures that are wearing these beautiful clothes and showing them to me. I feel like the narrative of the clothes gets very confusing and mixed when you have a celebrity wearing them. Something about that is weird. It's like, suddenly it's just like, oh, do I like Cardi B or not? And then like the dress is like either really exacerbating liking or disliking her. I don't know. I really like looking at these things like this instead of like on, you know, whoever later in the year when red carpet season. I guess red carpet season is right now. I guess we're in the middle of it. Let's move on. And for those watching at home, folks, I have a Patreon. And it needs you. You. Yes, you who has thought about joining the Patreon but haven't. You get to be on the Discord. It's a constant party over the Discord. Can someone in the chat please confirm that it is a constant party in the Discord? Back me up here, people. Let's look at Givenchy. Yeah. It needs them dollars. Thank you, Michael. All right, got another Sarah Mower review. I love Sarah. Okay. Let's take a sip of water here. This is a lot of reading. Where's my water? Where's my water? Here it is. Yeah, look. Okay, for Instagram people, I don't know, are we getting Bliss lows? Someone in the Instagram chat just said, the homie Bliss loves Bentrill. I've never heard someone talk so intricate about it. Yeah, that's true. I actually, like, when I was, like, in my, like, very early, like, fuckboy stage, I did actually like Bentrill an awful lot. So I think that was a joke, but the connotations of it are very true. Um, now for a smooth transition from Bentrill to Givenchy Haute Couture. The Englishwoman and her love of gardens are inseparable. Bentrill. Claire White Keller's spring haute couture collection for Givenchy was rooted in her recollections of visiting the garden rooms planted at Sissinghurst Castle by Vida Sackville West and by reading the passionate love letters between Sackville West and Virginia Woolf. Quote, "It's been one of the most romantic places in England," White Keller said. "I'm quite obsessed by the place." Famously, it was Woolf's involvement with Sackville West and dreaming through the Elizabethan history of the Sackville West family house that inspired Woolf to write her time and gender-traversing novel, Orlando, which, by the way, is the only literary reference that these identity-exploring times that is putting the L into LGBTQIA plus fashion representation. Okay, that was said really weird. Let me read you that sentence one more time. Famously, it was Woolf's involvement with Sackville West and dreaming through the Elizabethan history of Sackville West family house that inspired Woolf to write her time and gender-traversing novel, Orlando. Which, by the way, is the only literary reference in these identity-exploring times that is putting the L, lesbian I imagine, into LGBTQIA plus fashion representation. Hence, the coordinates White Keller used to map out a poetic collection that encapsulated her own strengths in tailoring, her white trouser suit and narrow coats, and the summer garden colors and swirling 3D petal forms of dresses. But it was also, White Keller said, my own love letter to Hubert de Givenchy, because I went into the archive for his collection and looked into the history of the house from the very beginning, end quote. Photographs of the pristine flower lace gowns he made in the era he designed for Audrey Hepburn were pinned to her inspiration board. Givenchy, as it happens, was dedicated to garden design too. White Keller exacted ideas from the sculptural millinery of the 1950s and the rounded cloche shapes that Givenchy developed for demi-transparent umbrella hats that swooped back over the shoulders, amplifying the volumes of tops and ball gowns to bloom with the colors of pansies, anemones, irises, and marigolds. The outside edges of the jacket of a neat black pantsuit were implanted with a halo of embroidery. Within the garden varieties of the collections, there was modernity, the multi-layered tulle petal pink skirt overlaid with chantilly lace and worn with a sheer black t-shirt, for example, as well as all-out romantic fantasy. For years, spring collections at Givenchy were the place for girls to come seeking wedding dresses. White Keller finished up her show by sending out Chiara Gerber as the ultimate fantasy bride in an off-the-shoulder cut-lace white chemise and a hat so huge it almost formed a canopy under which to take her vows. Sarah does have a very fun way of writing. Let's look at that hat. That is a fucking huge hat. That is more of a, yeah, that is a hat that is masquerading as a small hut. That is like a, yeah. Her queen's guards could set up shop inside of that hat because it reaches all the way down to the floor and it has like some three-dimensionality to it. You could like retreat back into the hat and then emerge out of the hat and the hat would stay stationary. That's a very big hat. Both the final look hats, look 40 and look 41, big old hats. We've got some big hats, people. Damn, some of this stuff is really cool. Jeez. Yeah, as a guy who doesn't know how to sew and I don't pattern cut and I have no real information, there's some stuff. This is the first one where I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, I would love to know how that is possible. Look 31 for those following along in the text. Someone said, absolute unit of a brim. Yeah, that's true. These are very cool. I like them. Yeah, some fascinating stuff. Hey, New Patreon sign up. What's up? Simon. I don't know where you are. I'm going to pretend you're right over here because this is what's staying permanently on the internet. Simon, I love you. I'm sorry if you were over here, Simon. I do love you over here. We got 2 people in the chat over there. Simon is probably not over there. Simon is over here. What's good, Simon? Thank you so much, my man. Join the Discord after we finish with the live stream. Join the Discord. It is sick. The Givenchy show is so cool. I especially like these jackets with like things coming off of the shoulders that make it look like there's like a light rain that's happening on just your shoulders. And again, absolute unit of a hat. Just marveling at the size of these hats. Let's go home to Gaultier. I'm so excited. Okay, a little bit of a longer review. I don't think any review is going to be as long as that review of Chanel. But just looking at this first image here, this is going to be a fucking crazy show. I am like gearing up to lose my voice. This is going to be awesome. Gaultier inhabits a creative universe all her own, where unbridled imagination meets arcane symbiology in clothing that is both sumptuously opulent and theatrical. All this hyperbole, though, can't even come near to describing the sense of wonder one experiences when inspecting her creations up close. The savoir-faire of her Beijing-based atelier is stellar. For this couture collection, Guo had us traveling to the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. It's not the most summery of destinations for a spring couture collection, but she seemed unconcerned by such a mundane consideration. As she tells it, the Himalayas are a holy place, the residence of the gods and the sacred temple of the soul, where the spirit soars to reach the divine. Never mind that Guo herself has never been to the Himalayas. Quote, "What I'm presenting in this show is just my own interpretation of this mysterious, spiritually powerful place," end quote, she said, speaking through her daughter who served as a translator. Quote, "When I was young, in my heart, haute couture was like the Himalayas, the pinnacle of the pyramid for me," end quote. In her case, the summit has definitely been reached. She is a megastar designer in China, was listed as one of the Time magazine's 100 most influential people in 2016, and you might remember dressed Rihanna for the 2015 Met Ball. The Himalayan gods are already smiling on her, and with exceptional ateliers at her disposal, the Himalayan skies aren't even the limit. Guo has a love for antique textiles, which she collects and often reworks in her collections. Quote, "The Himalayas have been there since the beginning of time," she mused. "I wanted to use textiles as antique as possible to give a sense of permanence," end quote. She sourced rare obi fabrics from Japan that she magically transformed. Hundreds of precious silk kimono belts were cut into squares and reassembled on the reverse side, exposing the yarn in an amazing, beautifully nuanced fringed texture. "It's a mysterious design," she said. "It can be read so many different ways." Continuing on her spiritual theme, Guo has traditional Buddhist thangas embroidered onto the reconstructed fabrics. The Buddhas of the three realms and the mysteries of the circle of life were lavishly rendered in three-dimensional gold thread motifs on thick brocades. This rich fabric was cut into tubular sleeve capes that trailed on the floor or into imperial mantenues completely lined in white ribbons of tulle that painstakingly curly-cued into rosettes so as to resemble a soft, snow-white fur. In the designer's vision, it was a symbol of purity. "They are snow goddesses," she said. As always with Gao, shapes were as extravagant as they get. Simple silhouettes inspired by kimonos and Tibetan garb progressed into more elaborate ideas, indulging her penchant for visual excess. There were short skater skirts made of layers of organza that sprouted feathers and bloomed with 3D embroidered flowers. There were no ordinary blooms, though. Guo had selected extremely rare and precious Himalayan plants with prodigious healing properties. Also rather impressive was the show's final look, a ceremonial brocade cape with a majestic train. A resplendent Buddhist thangka embroidered in gold threads, pearls, and precious gemstones at its back. It looked spectacular. When it comes to showmanship, Guo is definitely in command. Let's look at this show. Wow. What was this stage? This actually looks like they're up in the sky. This is wild. Dang. I can see why these high fashion talk girls really, really like Gaultier. She seems to be playing into this idea of luxury so effectively while still having a lot of imagination and stretching that audience a little bit. The people who want to buy into couture. This is sort of like pushing them a little bit. And also, Shogun is very correct when he says this sounds like high tier Dark Souls gear. Yes, and it looks like high tier Dark Souls gear, to be completely honest with you. Dang, I need to find out more about this woman. Wow, this is some beautiful stuff. Really like it. Okay, so here's a brand new designer named Iris van Herpen. It's time! Let's talk about Iris van Herpen. Let's do it. And if somebody else signs up for the Patreon, I will read the Iris van Herpen review twice. Yep, twice. Just kidding. I won't actually do that. You can still sign up for the Patreon. You won't be fucking anybody up. Okay, so the previewed look is just this like all black dress. 22, I assume that means 21 looks in total. Iris produces like less than 50 looks a year, sometimes less than 40. It's pretty incredible. She's one of the best designers alive. Here's the review. By this point in her career, and with sufficient time for R&D, Iris van Herpen can evoke just about any pattern in nature. Plant membranes, feathers, fossils, fins, bubbles, sound waves. The current list is long and it's impressive. For this collection, along with exploring the branching forms of detritus and deep-sea hydroza organisms, she seems to be evoking their natural and varied states of movement. The first model to emerge out of darkness wore a gown featuring an intricate laser-cut black leather corset. But what caught the eye was when she began gently waving her arms so that the pleated sleeve became billowing extensions of a root structure. Further on, sound waves painted and printed onto organza spheres were layered as a tiered dimensional shape that oscillated as though underwater. Damn, it is cool. Additional designs, each attesting to Van Herpen's technical and artistic legerdemain. Additional designs, each attesting to Van Herpen's technical and artistic prowess, fluttered, flowed, reverberated in step with the models who themselves swished around the central stage like marine animals. Even an oil-planted depiction of water by Chile Caruthers streamed softly across a loosely diamond diaphanous dress. Although we have observed intriguing, quivering moments from her in the past, certain others tended towards stiff. Today, what rigidity remained was attributable to the platform shoes. Van Herpen, who was a dancer before she was a designer, explained backstage that these movements and gestures represent a long journey towards animating her designs. Sometimes the fabric feels dead to me, she said. I try to really bring transformation and life into my work, and it's hard because clothes and fabrics aren't made to live, but that's maybe my ultimate dream. In the meantime, the detrite drawings of neuroscientist Santiago Ramon de Cajal and the hydroza organisms provided Van Herpen with, quote, micro and macro worlds that are really unexplored, end quote. There were instances where she seemed overstimulated by their potential, from the vaporous bursts of red and blue to the extreme spine-like contouring and splashing of living lace. Yet much of the way that Leonardo da Vinci, from whom Van Herpen reads, would make parallels between the motions of the mind, the motions of the body, and the motions of the universe. She says of her work, quote, it's not really me that I'm looking for, but my connection to the rest of the world around me. When her designs appear in the real world, they often look otherworldly, or else, as several do here, they imply any number of collisions between humans and nature, which is what makes her a relevant couturier through the start of this next decade. My favorite thing, before I look at the clothes, my favorite thing about Iris van Herpen is that from where people take their inspiration, she either takes that and says, I want to back up 30,000 feet from that inspiration and like look at the way I just want to like go substantially broader, or she goes microscopic with the inspiration. You would, I mean, honestly, to be honest, guys, like just about everything that Iris van Herpen does, when it's written out, I mean, this is a really beautifully written review, but if you like tried to explain in conversation, like, oh yeah, like it's based on like the way that different natural forces communicate with each other. That sounds so dumb. Like almost every concept that Iris van Herpen like has is like, that sounds like some like sophomore in art school who maybe won't be graduating from art school kind of idea. But then she executes it so well, so incredibly well, that like it, you just like, you can't help but go along with her. This is like the kind of stuff where if you needed to legitimize like what, like to your like stupid mundane like aunt or uncle, like who are just kind of like, I don't understand why anything should cost more than, you know, $20. Why do clothes cost this money? This is so dumb. Like this is what you would show them and be like, okay, like even if you're not trying to buy it for your dumb ass, like it's still like just so much to just appreciate like how crazy this stuff is, and it is pretty crazy. Damn. All right, if the Gaultier stuff is the Dark Souls gear, this is the Dark Souls boss outfit or body or whatever. This stuff is nuts. This is so cool. Okay. Really, this stuff is one that all of us need to go look at in person, because not in person, in the video, because it's just crazy. I want to know how Van Herpen is managing to run a business. I want to look at like her business plan in detail, because there's nothing. I want to say like one time she sold scarves. Oh, hang on, the Instagram video just ended. Let me just delete video. Hang on one second, guys. I'm just going back live on Instagram real quick. I want to know like how Iris van Herpen is able to maintain a business, because like at one point she was like selling scarves or something, but like it, for the most part, like this is it. She made, how many is this? 21 dresses. She made 21 dresses. She's selling 21 dresses, and that's apparently what's gonna keep the company afloat for 6 more months. That's fascinating, and I really, maybe there's a Business of Fashion article about it, but gosh, I love her so much. I was lucky enough to see a Van Herpen museum exhibit at the Atlanta High Museum. It's crazy. These clothes, like you look at the clothes and you like don't understand how it's an object that's happening. You look at it and it looks like something. It looks like something that you're being shown in an aquarium or something. Like you're just kind of like, wow, that's so beautiful. But like we take it for granted that like things that are on that level of beauty can exist in nature. But like it's just so hard to like make your brain make it make sense that like a person can design something that truly just looks like something that is a beautiful, naturally occurring thing. So I love Iris van Herpen so much. I wish she did 3 shows so we could just review those, but we do have some cool stuff here because we're going to talk about Jean-Paul Gaultier and his final show. And we have so much good stuff coming up. Let's see. Yeah, we haven't even done Viktor and Rolf yet, guys. Viktor and Rolf is on the horizon. Okay. Jean-Paul Gaultier. Final runway show. Hey, people, this is an Haute Couture collection. There is 173 fucking looks in this show. This is a lot. Let's see. Hey, we got some people on the Instagram chat. What's up, guys? I'm streaming on both right now. We're just covering Haute Couture week. Paris Haute Couture week. So, stick with us because we're talking about the Jean-Paul. You heard me talking. You guys were all here. You don't need to be caught up. I really wish these Vogue ads would go away. They're very annoying. They're all like in video mode. You can probably see them being gently reflected on my glasses. Here is, oh, it's a Hamish Bowles review. I like Hamish Bowles so much. This is like 12 paragraphs. Okay, here we go. We're gonna do it. We're going to do it. Here we go. Huge review, huge show. Jean-Paul Gaultier, R.I.P. We're going to do him respect and we're going to read the whole thing. Let's buckle in. Get a snack. When Jean-Paul Gaultier announced only days ago that his spring 2020 couture show would be his farewell to a career that has spanned 50 years of fashion on his own terms, France went into national mourning. What no one knew was that the designer would put on a grand finale show to remember. But what a magnificently inventive, euphoric, and heartwarming spectacle it was, a celebration of all the values that this unique designer has embodied in his work through 5 decades of imagination, humor, humanity, and joy. Gaultier showcased a breathtaking 200 plus looks. Apparently it was more, 200 or more looks, but who's counting? To be honest, it was 10 times more bordello than my first shows that I did, joked Gaultier backstage. I knew I had too much, and that after I will be clean, but I didn't clean. At the end, I put it all in. That's a very French way of saying something, but I didn't clean. At the end, I put it all in. And it really was a show, staged in Paris's storied Théâtre des Charlettes, inaugurated in 1862 by Empress Eugenie. This was the stage where Nijinsky later debuted the scandalous play, as did another play. Okay, so a bunch of French people did French plays here. Alongside such guests as Carla Sarkozy, oh my gosh. Okay. A lot of people came to this, including Martin Margiela. It's pretty crazy. Since we're public here and we're talking to 45 people, if anybody knows of any sources that have a photograph of fashion's best boy Martin Margiela at this event, I'd be very interested in seeing a photograph. I briefly tried to Google that myself, talked to my plugs, my Margiela plugs. Lizzie, if you're in the chat, what's up? Nobody that I know of has that photo yet. But if anybody knows of anybody with one, I'll trade you a rare photo of Rei Kawakubo. Meanwhile, up above, the first row of dress circle was a diamond horseshoe of the couture house's Maison clients, all dressed to kill. Before the show started, Nicolas Gisser turned to Eva Herzegova to confide, "I was your dresser at my first Gaultier show." In his days as a junior assistant, it is a very emotional moment, Gisser added. He inspired us all and he gave me my first big break. Many of the conversations we are having today about such issues as diversity, gender fluidity, recycling, and sustainability are built into the Gaultier DNA. Since his first show in 1976, he has shown pan-generational models of all sizes, genders, and ethnicities on his runway because they reflected the real-life people on the streets who inspired his style. As Gaultier explained backstage of one of those anarchic early collections, "I was recycling things because at the beginning I had no money. So I was taking things like jeans and camouflage and doing funny things with them, and now I just did that with my couture." He had put men in skirts and turned the corset from a symbol of the oppressed woman to that of the woman or man who is absolutely in control. He famously dressed Madonna in a conical bra for her 1990 Blonde Ambition tour. Although he debuted the fashion look on his fall 1984 runway, he had first experimented with it on his childhood teddy bear. He used newsprints at the time, and revealed to the playful opening sequence of his 2018 cabaret fashion freak show at Paris's fabled Folie Bergère, a popular success here and perhaps a hint of a future career. As Gaultier promised, he took the ideas that he first explored on a shoestring budget and amplified them with all the technical wonders for which his remarkable haute couture ateliers are famed. And this is a designer steeped in couture, having worked alongside Pierre Cardin at the tender age of 18. Wow, that must have been fucking incredible. The collection opened with a sequence from photographer William Klein's 1966 Fashion World spoof Polly Magoo. Featured a fashion shoot starring Peggy Moffat and other model luminaries at the age staged as a funeral. Then a real-life tableau of mourners formed on stage, arranged by famed choreographer Blanca Lee. Among them, many of the iconic models who have brought their spirit to the Gaultier runways through the years, dressed in upcycled pieces from the designer's archive. Excuse me. Among the black-clad crowd, one could spot Gaultier's catwalk icons through the decades, including Anna Paulowski, who modeled at the designer's very first shows, Farida Khalifa, sorry, in a faultless. Mia Khalifa was at this show? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. In a faultless black smoking pant. We're just naming a lot of models that I am not familiar with here. In the group was posed into a frozen tableau, but on the mourners couldn't stop himself moving the orchestra's beat. It was Boy George, who then broke into a stirring rendition of Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. I love him, Gaultier explained backstage of his excitement when George agreed to perform for him. For me, he's a very good representation of an English eccentric, and England and English people have been my inspiration always. Six burly pallbearers appeared bearing a coffin with a lid humorously pierced with two giant metal cones, as though the corpse were wearing a Gaultier bra. The pallbearers then turned frisky, breaking into an amazing rubber-leg dance before setting the coffin upright on the stage. Carly Kloss stepped forth from the crowd in a shapely black smoking jacket that bore a traditional French funerary wreath on the back, its ribbon bearing the legend La mode pour la vie, fashion for life. She then opened the coffin to reveal the very living occupant dressed in Look One, a baby doll dress literally composed of dozens of infants' dresses in the same style, a symbol perhaps of a reborn couture. Then followed a masterclass in recycling Gaultier couture style, including new look jackets mounted flat on the front bustiers with skirts formed of streamers of old-fashioned black silk stockings or opera kid gloves, a patchwork bodysuit with a bodice made from gentlemen's vintage silk foulard ties, a miniskirt formed of collage biker jackets, and jean jackets and pants cut out to encircle the body in crinoline hoops. Or treated like fine lace in a miraculous tour de force of handwork, or worked into a matador jacket worn by a male dancer who wowed the crowd by walking in ballet point shoes, on point. Subsequent passages all played with the leitmotifs that Gaultier had made on his own, the corsetry that had obsessed him since he first admired the girdles worn by his beloved grandmother Marie Garage. The famed blue and white striped Matelot sweater transformed on Gigi Hadid into a couture masterwork of fan-pleated organza worn with Matelot pants worked in finely tucked jersey like one of Madame Graz's fabled goddess gowns. The Gaultier camouflage was reimagined as a fall of autumn leaves exquisitely embroidered in silk threads on a toolman's shirt or in an origami whorls of silk taffeta on a jumpsuit, and Hermes scarves were sliced up and interwoven to make a swirling skirt. 2 paragraphs left. Meanwhile, a bridal couple, each wearing half an immaculate white jacket, hers over a short skirt, his over long, showed what a brilliant tailor Gaultier is, and reminded us that he has been playing with gender-fluid identity on his runway since it was sociably taboo. Rossi de Palma was dressed in a black Spanish fan with her hair twisted into pretzels to suggest a mantilla. Dita Von Teese struck a pose in a corset dress composed of pink satin belts. Beatrice Dalle strutted in vampirical black net and patent leather and threw her lit cigarette on the runway. A photographer leaned in to pick it up and puffed it to finish. That's hilarious. Coco Rocha gave us a dazzlingly high-flying Irish dance in a swinging kilt of chiffon, cut velvet, and feathers. Anna Cleveland rocked a skirt made of natural sponges. DJ Kitty Smile sashayed in kimono dresses, and Amanda Lear in a beaded sweater, micro-mini, and legs for days descended the stairs in the arms of 2 strapping boy toys. Am I painting the picture? We laughed, we cried. The standing ovation went on forever. That was so fun, chorused Viktor and Rolf. And this from Dries. That's going out with a bang. All right. Let's see someone just said 173 looks, what the fuck? What's up, Arturo? It's actually over 200 looks, apparently. Jeez, this is a lot. Wow. Yeah, we got a lot of variety. What a final show. Oh yeah, and then of course if you go over here to the actual like Vogue collection page, it only shows you 100 of the looks. I'm only being shown half of the damn looks right now, people. Not even seeing very many of them here. Oh my gosh, this is wild. So yeah, very Gaultier. Very Gaultier. Lots of sailor stripes. Lots of kind of like a lot of things that are like a very silly version of Martin Margiela's work. It's easy to see where he gets it from. Where Margiela gets it from, of course, is what I mean. Wow, Jack says that he watched the whole show and that it was essentially an hour. So we're kind of going back to the sort of the older days of couture collections when like the audience was there expecting like a show, and like the thought that you would come in, sit down, watch it for 15 minutes, get up and leave that used to not be a thing at all. It used to be that you were like served like drinks and you were maybe given some snacks, and this was like a whole to do, and there was like music, and every look was like this long drawn out thing. In this case, I don't think every look was a long drawn out thing. I think they just had to move them along. But geez, basically an hour long runway show. He didn't edit it down. He threw it all in. Very cool. Thanks, Grandpa. So let's look at, let's see, let's check on this real quick. All right, guys, we got 3 new patrons in the pot. We need 3 more by the end of the live stream, and we are halfway done. So we're doing good. Let's keep it up. So this is this a runway or is this looks like it's a runway. Yeah. Very intimate little runway here. So we're looking at Julie Delibrand, who I have never heard of, and I'm very interested to hear about her work. This is just 24 looks, very, very small show. When she launched her label last season, Julie Delibrand decided that every design, be they couture or ready to wear in numbered editions, would be named after women in her life. Following today's show, as if on cue, Elizabeth von Gutmann, co-founder of System magazine, was waving goodbye to Delibrand at the exact moment the designer said the first look. An embellished grayscale sequin blazer had been named Elizabeth. Delibrand has support from some influential women and men in the industry, and her debut of evening dresses was well received, in no small part because half the collection is made of upcycled fabrics, while all the embroidered designs are made to order. Rare and unwasteful, as she puts it. For her sophomore effort, which was once again held in her well-appointed home, she expanded this well-intentioned repertoire to include coordinated looks, or as she describes them, a dress in 2 pieces. Some were moderately daring and midriff-bearing, such as the sculpted crop top and a full skirt and animal spots. Others were more voluminous and dramatic, such as the ruffled tent-shaped top, and Delibrand hopes that women will mix these pieces into their existing wardrobes. For couture, that is a very bold idea. So many of the dresses were many that one half-jokingly wondered whether there was enough fabric to make them longer. She confirmed that this was actually the case with the white and black polka-dotted number. But between the understated lingerie styles with the laced incrustations with metallic styles that played up the glamour, a certain character came through in each, which she said was both the goal and the challenge. Quote, "I didn't want them to feel contrived." A designer's second collection can feel ultra-decisive, usually. It either needs to stay the course as a way of establishing codes or wow people anew. While Delibrand could run with her mono concept for seasons to come, women will always require special occasion dresses. The aforementioned blazer, which was worn like a dress, was already a welcome twist on her resolutely feminine designs. Wow, if this is in her home and this is in Paris, this is a very gorgeous and very expensive home. What a beautiful place. Yeah, this is all. So this looks like a much This woman must be very young. Yeah, because these designs look like cool girl clothes. They definitely have like the codes of couture. I'm seeing a lot of very like the clothes are communicating a lot of work, like a lot of work hours and a lot of like beautiful expensive materials. But these look much more like, maybe it's just the styling that's giving me this impression. But like these feel like cool girl clothes. Some of them almost look casual, which is crazy. But yeah, this is really nice. And a couture collection that's always being hosted in your home is that's a cool flex. Yeah, never heard of Julie de Lebrun. I like her stuff though. All right, Maison Margiela all over my shoes. Let's go. Let's see what John got up to this season with my favorite house of all time. And we have another Sarah Moe to review. Not a terribly long one. Here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. 3 people on Instagram and a few people on YouTube. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna be right back. Give me 60 seconds. Hang with me, okay? Whoop. Someone asked what the designer's name was. The designer's name is Julie de Lebrun, which is Libran. That is for, oh yeah, thank you, Jack. Cool. 60 seconds, be right back. All right. What's up? Okay, yeah, I was about to say, which one of you cowards made the Bliss Foster joke? You guys, I consume so much liquid in my life. It's a lot. Drink a lot of water, drink a lot of liqueur, drink a lot of coffee. It's just the reality of the situation. Sarah Moe says of the Maison Margiela show, Viva la fashion revolution, upcycling the heritage of the craft to make something for the present that is beautifully, radically creative. John Galliano tackled the challenge of our times head on with his fantastical Maison Margiela artisanal collection this morning. For a designer who began his career with a graduation collection about the French Revolution in a time when young people in London were chopping up vintage clothes from markets, this was almost a reclamation of all of Galliano's first principles, elevated and re-energized amid the 21st century youth rebellion against waste and overconsumption. Most of the collection was made from materials that already exist, memories of bourgeois classics recut, turned inside out, dissected, collaged, and punched through in a riot of color. An upcycling of values is proposed, as the clarion call of his press release stated. Galliano spoke in a House podcast about how he and his studio... If anybody doesn't know about this, John Galliano does show notes as a podcast. Great idea. It's an incredible idea. If you like fashion and you like learning about fashion, that you have to go listen to the Margiela podcast. John Galliano is explaining his own artisanal collections himself. It's great. It is brilliant. That is your homework. Please hit me up on Instagram and tell me what you thought about it. And also, let's go, guys. Patreon. If you've been thinking about it, go do it. Patreon.com/Bliss Foster. Let's go. I'm sorry. That was too stern. I'll keep reading. I'm sorry. I shouldn't speak to you like that. Galliano spoke in a House podcast about how he and his studio team had sat and decided, quote, there are too many clothes in the world. He reflected on the rise of the bourgeoisie and capitalism after the 19th century Industrial Revolution. Next thing, his assistants were out scouring thrift shops for materials to work into the collection. In many ways, it was a physical and philosophical manifestation of the phrase that had become a commonplace: there is no away. Just as clothes can't be thrown out, nor can the history of Western fashion, so it's down to revolutionaries to make over what remains, and thence to swagger proudly forth into the beautiful results. The attitude of a girl... Oh, the attitude of a girl in an emerald 50s ball gown veiled with a black tulle cape seemed to symbolize it all. Striding forward in an echo of old world couture pose, she held one arm elbow out, her yellow gloved hand in a fist. Galliano weaponized his scissors to slice through convention. He diced sections of bourgeoisie silk shirt dresses into fluttering tabs, imagined perforations as negative space sequins, and chopped off balloon coat sleeves, attaching them to scarves and tying them to column dresses. Bed sheets, or maybe they were nylon curtains, were repurposed as evening capes, a delicate elegance found in wisps of pink and apricot chiffon draped and taped in place in a spontaneous Madame Grès-like moment. All of Galliano's formidable skills in bias cutting and judging the balance of volumes and color were fully present. For customers who can afford haute couture, for, after all, this is a business, there are rich pickings to be had, and the incredible series of oversized coats in single shot of pea green, yellow, and royal blue and red would be high on that list. But then again, the threads of democratic idealism ran through them too. Their top stitching was deliberately artless and amateur, Galliano's salute of encouragement to a new generation of repurposers and repairers. Look, he says, this is haute. This is special. And if you want, you can just do it yourself. Yeah, that's all. That all seems very Jean Galliano. Yep, somebody in the chat said it. R.I.P. Kobe. That is absolutely fucking crazy, you guys. We're going to keep talking about fashion, but I do not care about sports at all. I have never at any point in my life cared about sports, but Kobe Bryant has been... It's weird. It's like I sort of feel like he's like an acquaintance, because he's just like him and things about him and seeing pictures of him, and he's like just been a constant in like every person in the world's life, and he died in a helicopter crash this morning. That is insane. Oh, very, very weird. All right, let's look at these clothes. This is cool. We're doing these circular like hole punch out things. Very, very strange. The final effect of that is very, I don't know, that is in its own weird way, that is very reminiscent of the way that the Maison was originally doing things, but I'm not sure on an emotional level, I don't think I really love this like hole punch out thing. These big like circles of fabric that are missing or like twiddling about. Yeah, as with a lot of the stuff that Martin was doing, I feel like I would need to see this very much up close in order to understand what's going on. Maybe listen to the whole Galliano podcast in order to really understand what's happening here. But I like it. It's just very different. It's very different than the stuff that Martin was putting out. It's hard because it's like I feel like I'm listening to like a really good jazz album by My Chemical Romance or something. Like, yes, this is a good jazz album. I just really like My Chemical Romance a whole lot, you know? I don't know. This is a solid show. Let's move on. Raul Mishra. Who do we have coming up? Scamparelli's coming up. We got Scamparelli on deck, but first, Raul Mishra. Here's the review. Like 2 paragraphs here. It was in late November that Raul Mishra learned that he had been invited to present his collection on the official Paris Haute Couture schedule. If he already had certain ideas in his mind, the completed creations came together in this short time. During a visit with the designer following the show, he pulled up pictures on his phone to detail how his preliminary sketches materialized into exceedingly intricate embroideries of flora and fauna. With upwards of 1,500 people, imagine some 3,000 hands entrusted to their production, it would seem he had established a functioning ecosystem, all while paying tribute to the fragility of some of the ecosystems that surround him in India. This is the first, by the way, this is Bliss talking here, not from the review, but like this is the first Indian designer to present during Paris Haute Couture. So, in that way, this is a very important thing. And I do want to say before I forget, it is important when something like that happens that we remember that this designer is not responsible for showing us like couture through the eyes of India or whatever. Like there's always this like weird pressure that gets put on it's always artists of color to like really like show us your people. And I think that's that's very corny and like short-sighted and stuff. Like what he's responsible for doing is showing us the art that is inside of him. And if that happens to be a beautiful representation of Indian culture, sick. Indian culture is gorgeous. Like no complaints there from me. But if he just wants to make avant-garde stuff or just like really beautiful stuff that's inspired by Coco Chanel, like he's allowed to do that. So there's Bliss's little soapbox. On with the review. Mishra's embroideries have been his point of differentiation since he began showing his ready-to-wear in Paris some 4 years ago, primarily because they capture a vision that is at once naively artistic and engaged in message. This season, inspired by his 4-year-old daughter's awareness of her changing environment, he found resonance in the jungle scenes of Henri Rousseau, the most famous of the naifs. Except, of course, the painter depicted his lushness in 2D, whereas Mishra could actually create dimensional scenes through all the accumulation of individual embroideries. Now that we live in such high definition, this workmanship stands a better chance of registering in photos, but it's also true that the wow moment happens up close and in person. Although you wouldn't believe the lightness of these dresses, owing to their near sheer bodies in tulle and organza, but also clearly to the constant finesse of his techniques. And with his foray into haute couture came a few new departures, his tufts of monochromatic fronds that produce some soft feminine volumes in a lovely naturalistic way, as well as the dreamy landscapes in micro-sequins with the water areas rendered in a painterly effect. Quote, I could have done this as a print far more quickly with just a few people, but instead we do it in a way that takes 5,000 human hours and employs many, said the designer, who added that for him, this pre-industrialized production and sense of participation are at the heart of haute couture. I don't know if I need to make and sell another black jacket, but the idea is to be less volume-centric while taking care of people. A worthy new entrant indeed. Yeah, that was a good, that review was written by Amy Werner. That was a good review. Yeah, and this stuff is gorgeous, of course. Wow. Okay, for those who are following along, look at look 20. Oh my wow. I have not pulled up a single look so far to look at it up close, and holy shit, they were not joking when they said he's rendering 3D environments. This is a dress that is a 3D environment. Oh my fuck. This is my favorite thing I've seen so far, right here. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is beautiful. Somebody get a damn tracking device on that dress so we can see where it goes and what happens with it. Dang. It's like, okay, how to describe. It's like a jungle sort of aesthetic. Anybody want to help me out? Like, how do we describe this shit? It really looks like he's trying to like turn like the leaves and vines and birds flying away of an actual like jungle environment. But there's like this like huge pendant thing that's taking up like most of her torso. So it's not just all like a jungle on her body. It's like this pendant thing. Yeah, okay, so it looks like monastic illustrations. It's like an oasis in a jungle. There's like this huge pendant that covers like all of her stomach and part of her chest. That's like it's a circular thing in the middle, but it's like it's framing this like flora and fauna that's like a skirt, like a mini short skirt, and these huge shoulder pieces that like birds are literally like flying off of. These like very, very small birds. This is wild. This is so beautiful. This is far and away. Look 20, Raul Mishra. That's my favorite thing from Haute Couture Week. That's got to be. I can't imagine something taking me by surprise more than that. That's crazy. All right, time to look at Ralph and Russo. Wow, this is going to be a very different show. Okay, 2 paragraphs. Ralph and Russo. In light of the bushfires crisis in their Australian homeland, Tamara Rolf and Michael Russo opened their couture show by announcing their intention to support relief efforts. The pair will host a fundraiser on their Facebook page with all proceeds pledged donated to the Australian Red Cross Disaster Relief and Recovery Fund. It was the least we all could do, Ralph noted backstage. Perhaps the most revealing detail about Ralph and Russo show is that before the lights even went up on the couture collection Monday night, one of the top stylists and Hollywood stars took aside a PR to ask how fast things could be shipped to the West Coast. We are in the midst of award season after all. As the shows unfurled to the sounds of An American in Paris and Moonlight Serenade, that stylist was snapping photos and messaging her client who, wherever she was, seemed to be hanging on every text. You could see why a statuesque beauty would fall for these Oscar-worthy dresses, either in a seafoam green or a degrade of pastel colors. Some of the most winning numbers, however, were in subtler hues, like an anthracite column dress with a wave detail, a gossamer floral train with hologram effect, or a gown that looked like it had been illuminated with a light wand. The couple also brought out 10 new iterations of their neoclassics to celebrate a decade in the couture business. We wanted to celebrate where we've been, but also show a new direction for a new decade, Ralph offered after the show. Every element was something from history, whether fabrication, embroideries, or silhouettes. This, she said, would continue to be mixed together with designs that will appeal to their fast-growing younger base. Come April, those customers will have a new destination to source Ralph and Russo designs in New York City. All right, so let's look at it. This is clearly red carpet stuff. Thanks, I hate it. Now this just seems, I don't know, man. What do we do about, can anyone like help me understand red carpet looks? Because it seems like even the women's stuff, which almost always is like much more like interesting and stuff, it just never hits me with any kind of like wow factor. I never feel like, I mean, don't even get me started on men. I think that, gosh, I can't think of a single time that like a man on a red carpet made me even say like, oh, he looks kind of cool. Like men just look like garbage on runway carpets, to be totally honest with you. And I mean, unless it's like the Met Gala that we're talking about, where everyone is very focused on appealing to fashion crowd. But like, I mean, what are people saying here? Oh, Simon, we're on Vogue. Yeah. Someone was like, can someone please tell me the website so I can follow along with what Bliss is saying? Oh, apparently the Grammys are tonight and someone wore Bodie. That's cool. I don't know. This just looks like red carpet dresses, which is to say they look a little bit like suburban prom dresses, a lot of them. I don't know, guys. It's beautiful, and look, it took so many hours, so many hands, so many people, so much money. I just don't like how this looks. I don't know. I just don't like how it looks. Okay. Not that Ralph or Russo are trying to impress me. So, Ronald Vanderkemp. That's who we're talking about right now. Ronald Vanderkamp. Here we go. Here we go with the review. In the world of haute couture, every look would be given a fancifully glamorous name with an exhaustive description of the arcane, fairy-fingered techniques that went into it. Ronald Vanderkamp went for the same sort of method to describe look 22 from his spring show. The Boscherite guilt-free fur trash coat was handmade by Carpet for Life, a small organization that works to empower Moroccan women in small villages in the Sahara, generating an income to preserve their heritage and support their communities to get a better life by using the ancient Boscherite weaving technique to make carpets from leftover clothes or fabrics. That's quite cool. And there was a kicker. It was made from RVDK's black and gold leftover scraps from previous seasons to create the effects. Oh, I'm sorry. It was made from Ronald Vanderkamp's black and gold leftover scraps from previous seasons to create the effect of a luxurious fur coat. Our seasonal statement against unsustainable fake fur. Vanderkamp is in it to make sexy and exhilarating clothes. The gold-flecked chubby, like all of his pieces, is designed to make a big entrance and then dance all night. Style-wise, this collection was built on nostalgia for Club Sempt, and the all sexualities welcome disco and Parisian equivalent of Studio 54. By the by, the hedonist from Amsterdam is also the haute couture's most super advanced master of the art, craft, ethics, research, legwork, and human relationships involved in actioning sustainability. Actually, he said backstage, I've been doing this since 2014, but just haven't talked about it. Well, now's the time, and not just because consumers are asking more questions about the clothes or how the clothes are made. So too, some luxury manufacturers are waking up to the enormity of the dead stock and overproduced materials they have on their hands. Then along comes the Dutch designer, and suddenly off the cuff from luxury handbags are being used for a smoker's flame Western leather jacket. In the West, man, we're using some terms here that I do not understand. In this way, luxury of consumer conglomerates burning, landfilling, or storing their overstuffs at untold costs, Vanderkamp is alleviating some of fashion's most egregious problems, and where he's concerned, it's always upcycling with the emphasis on up. That sounds cool. Let's look at it. Yeah, this is some haute couture I can get into. This is cool. Huh, sort of seems like if Telfar did haute couture. Sort of seems like if Telfar did haute couture. This is cool. Lots of very clearly expensive materials, but like with some like cuts and shapes that are either very old, like we have these like full-fledged capes, and like some like interesting kind of leatherish looking jackets. Some huge like ruffled pieces that are all on one shoulder but nowhere else. This is cool. Good job, Ronald Vanderkamp. All right, so we're gonna save Scamparelli for the very, very end. We're gonna do that one last. So we got 3 more before that. Valentino is next. Wow, very short review for Valentino by Sarah Miller, no less. A very different facet of Pier Paolo's A very different facet of Pier Paolo's design imagination transpired at this Valentino Spring Haute Couture collection. It was structured, linear, fish-tailed, modular, yet still drenched in color and patterned by turns. The man who has triggered 1 million voluminous copies decided it was time to step off a path that has now turned into a fashion industry highway. When you talk about couture, you talk about dreams, but dreams are the expression of something which is subconscious, he said. It's about the freedom of expressing yourself. Piccioli is frank about cutting the crap about fashion as he is in... Piccioli is as frank about cutting the crap about fashion as he is about cutting. I hate it when people talk about, quote, storytelling. I'm not a storyteller. I don't have the feeling that Cristobal, Balenciaga, Saint Laurent, Charles James, Manbacher, whatever, I don't feel like they had stories of the season. Trusting himself to free association meant exploring form and emotion in ways that emphasized choice, variety, and the ingenious devices that only Valentino craftspeople are able to realize. There were more trousers, more columns than before, and interest in constructing layers in ways that only the wearer will know about. Some of the midsections that looked like low-slung cummerbunds or basques were actually attached. Other pieces, like a rolled peplum, were tied on with a sash. Opera gloves could sprout frills which merged into the deep 3D ruffles on neckline. Bubbles, bows, and plenty of Valentino red recurred. There was a gorgeous color purple Udinil and scarlet, Parma violet, pink, mint, and then again equally stunning black dresses too. It gets listy to call out all the effects. Better to stand back and see it all as a collection in which Piglioli himself challenged himself to stop the operatic volumes and began his search for a new silhouette. Okay, let's look at this No Stories collection. I mean, Valentino is one of the only ones where I feel like I have any kind of reference for the Haute Couture stuff. And this does seem like he's going for a different silhouette, especially in incorporating these jackets. But yeah, some of this stuff is cool. Some of it I'm kind of wondering where it's going to go, as far as like what its uses, who its client is. Because some of it is very bold. Some of it, the shapes are really, really out there. So I'm kind of wondering where that's going to go. But other than that, it looks like, yeah, it looks like he's exploring really hard, trying to find something new. The opera gloves are a cool look. For people who are rich or famous enough to not need to constantly be on their phones, it would be very cool to see opera gloves come back for those people. That would be very cool. Let's look at Viktor and Rolf. I like Viktor and Rolf so much. And the first look, the preview look, makes me really excited for this show. Again, we're trying to get to 6 Patreon subscribers in this chat, or in this this live stream. We've only got 3. If anybody's been thinking about it but hasn't done it yet, it's patreon.com/Bliss Foster. I'd appreciate it very much. Here's the review of Viktor and Rolf. This was written by Amy Werner. Starting sometime in 2016, Viktor Horsting and Rolf Cernan began using their own fabric leftovers to create new haute couture creations. With this inventory almost all used up, they resorted to an archive of swatches sent to them by suppliers that they had never thrown away. But how to turn all those small samples into anything approximating a collection? The answer? Patchwork, a technique more associated with the humble craft and DIY clothes making than haute couture. This youthful lineup consisted of elaborate dresses that Horsting described as sweetness combined with fierceness. The designers seemed less concerned about concept and more committed to do more with less thinking. They revisited their vaguely historical silhouettes with fresh collages and motifs and materials, paired them with kooky foil hats and cute jelly shoes in vegan recyclable plastic by Brazilian brand Melissa. There were micro-floral maxi styles with patchwork bows and brocade patchwork mini styles with ornate capes. There were monochromatic patchworks of luxurious black and white lace and quilt-like compositions in vibrant colors. Dimensional crochet and tulle festooned with fixed the swatches in place, putting the work into patchwork. If the designers drew inspiration from Laura Ingalls Wilder and Holly Hobbie, they were also putting a tougher, but not too tough, generational spin on these dated prairie girl and doll-like tropes. Models were inked with face and neck tattoos like Post Malone and Lil Wayne. Only there's read dream and love. Platitudes like success is not final, failure is not fatal, and I have a dream spanned their arms. It would take a certain kind of ingenue to wear face tattoos on the red carpet, but given the ever-growing interest in upcycle and virtue signaling, the dresses send the right kind of message. Cool. So we're doing a patchwork thing from old stuff, and this is great. Wow. Yeah, it just seems like every designer is really fixated on this upcycling thing, which is very cool. I like that as a design challenge. That's a cool limitation to place on yourself. I think, and this is me talking out of my ass because I can't back this up with any numbers, but it seems like the problem with fashion being irresponsible comes from entirely comes from fast fashion. I mean, the likelihood that these guys are creating any real waste, I just think that is so fractional in comparison to, I mean, this whole collection, the amount of waste this could have produced if they didn't have upcycling in mind. This one collection by Viktor and Rolf, that wouldn't equal a week of H&M waste. Like, that's, I don't know. This seems cool because hopefully it will set a trend that will trickle down and make it where H&M and Zara will stop being just huge shitty monsters. But yeah, it seems sort of like, you guys know you're not the problem, right? Like, you guys are okay. Like, you're making like museum level stuff. This is very polarizing, this collection. Patchwork is something that is pretty weird for Haute Couture. But for the patchwork challenge, this is cool. This is a lot more variety of looks than I would think would come about from this. I mean, I thought I was just going to get like Junya Watanabe as dresses, but this is very good. Viktor and Rolf. Good job, guys. Zuhair Murad. Ooh, this looks pretty. All right. It reads, a side perk of attending a Zuhair Murad show is that it is a twofer. You have both the designer's showy vision on the runway and an enthusiastic audience putting on a show all their own. Murad's ladies take the proceedings seriously, so reliably there will be tiaras, lashings of sequins, towering stilettos, and mommy and me style duets. This season was no exception, and depending on who you're seated next to, watching the show through your neighbor's smartphone screen becomes a new reality, like it or not. She wants to shout it to the world. Down the Nile, Murad cruised, riffing on the ancient tropes of Egypt, a country he knows well and loves, evoking gods and pharaohs and queens, though not the most famous one of all. I decided to go back in history, especially in this place and time, because the pharaohs were so mysterious, he said. Name-checking Isis and Nefertiti backstage before the show. There's a richness of life and fashion, but women were powerful too, maybe even more powerful than men. The mix of power and beauty sums up the Zuhair Murad woman. She likes to seduce. Subtlety is not her strongest suit, and Murad's woman is perfectly fine with that. She will thrill to dresses or perhaps even a crop top, painstakingly embroidered with thousands of sequins depicting all manners of symbols from hieroglyphs, falcons, and deities. Bastet, a cat goddess made to an appearance, a Tutankhamun likeness. One fully sequined gown required 800 hours of embroidery, the designer reckoned. At one point, the show segged into a romantic interlude of lotus print chiffon, a reference to rebirth, but the designer also offered up a bit of a sly wit, pointing out a number inspired by mummies. Quote, the ones you see in the museums are really quite embellished, he noted. The bride was Murad's modern queen of Egypt, in a sunray beaded gown inspired by Ra, the sun god, and a lavishly jeweled headpiece. Even so, that queen was no one person in particular. When I decide for my clients, I'm inspired by them. When I do a collection, I like to rely on my imagination, the designer said. The couture outing was one of Murad's most memorable, and paradoxically, considering the lavishness of the embroideries, it was one of his more restrained. He has a lot to say, which makes pruning a challenge. However, most of his shows would be just as impactful, and maybe even more so, were they a dozen looks shorter. To coax the most fire from a diamond, sometimes you have to sacrifice a shade of carat weight. So for context there, this collection has 49 looks. So that is, I guess, fairly long for a couture show. But hey, compared to Jean Paul, this is like full of restraint. Yeah, this has a lot, very heavy Egyptian motif. Very, very heavy. Very hard for me to give comment on this because this is just so out of my wheelhouse for fashion. I feel like Lindsay would be in a position to say whether or not this is like cool or interesting or whatever. I gotta be honest with you guys. This is completely outside of the realm of what I understand. I don't know what to say about this. Let's move on. Final look. Scamparelli. Love it. This is going to be so good. I love Scamparelli so much. All right, it's a Hamish Bowles review. The shortest Hamish Bowles review that we've encountered so far, but this is just like 4 paragraphs. It is little more than 6 months since Daniel Roseberry joined the house of Scamparelli, and he has certainly reset the dial on the storied brand whose creator was famed for her innovation, surrealist whimsy, and embrace of the contemporary art world. Quote, "It was a crash course in all things," Roseberry explained, amid fittings on the eve of his second Haute Couture presentation. Quote, "In Paris, in couture, in the inner workings of the atelier." For the spring couture collection that Roseberry described as the sequel to his first, he decided to focus on the double fantasy of the protean Elsa Scamparelli herself. He began planning the collection by looking at images of Scamp at work in her studio, dressed in her inventive but pragmatic daytime outfits. These he contrasted with the incredible surrealist parties that she used to throw. This idea of the woman who dresses for herself during the day, but then there's this duality at night when it becomes performative. "I became obsessed with the contradictory personality, the introvert-extrovert idea," he continued, trying to embrace those 2 different extremes and remove all of the middle to do something that feels uniquely Scamparelli and personal. Roseberry also looked at Scamparelli's 1930 friends and collaborators, including the modestly minimalistic deco-moderne furniture and the interior designer Jean-Michel Franck, for a daytime palette of cerused oak and parchment that he mixed with navy and cigar brown, and Alberto Giacometti for the skeletal jewels and rhinestone bone embellishments that also reference Scamparelli's own shocking padded jersey skeleton evening dress of 1938. That sounds very cool. I'm gonna look that up in a second. Scamparelli's favorite flower, the iris, and the dressmaker's tape measure from the packaging of the original stocking perfume bottle, as well as the house icons, such as the padlock, also made the cameo appearances. The Dallas-born Roseberry brought his own uniquely personal references to bear too, looking, for instance, at 1980s copies of Sports Illustrated featuring Ella McPherson, who inspired playful swimsuit back dresses with trompe l'oeil tan lines or reveals of net or leather, the color of the model's skin, an effect that met with varying degrees of success. J. Crew catalogs of the same period inspired broad varsity stripes in incandescent colorways. With more time under his belt at the house to get to know the all-important workrooms, Roseberry had the opportunity to focus on tailoring. Always a mainstay in Scamparelli's own work, and the collection opened with some stylish options for the couture client who doesn't just emerge after dark. Standouts included a classic navy pantsuit with a collar that morphed into a swoosh of organza suggesting a head in the clouds, a simple boxy tan beige Spencer jacket embroidered with a continuation of the model's elaborate chandelier drop earrings, and a lean buff coat exploding with the coruscating Scamparelli Sun King Lesage embroidery motif on the back. Those psycho-chic day clothes, as Roseberry describes them, morphed into evening pieces that evoked Scamparelli's dreams that his elegantly self-penned program notes explained, quote, "were active, propulsive, exuberant, extravagant, rebellious, and ambitious," and nodded to Yves Saint Laurent and Christian Lacroix's 80s and 90s couture work in striking ultramarine, scarlet, viridian, and of course the brand's own iconic, shocking pink. While some of Roseberry's propositions seemed like works in progress, that is, perhaps the nature of creativity, and with the strengthened tailoring, his vision for the legendary house becomes more quietly persuasive by the season. So let's take a look. Yeah, this is immediately very pretty stuff. Wow, some of these pants are really beautiful. These like asymmetric pants that sit higher on the hip on one side. And their shocking pink color is so pretty too. It's like a very likable pink. It's kind of a 90s pink. not millennial pink. This is pretty stuff. I wish Lindsay was here so she could tell us if this like has any strong resemblances to actual Schiaparelli stuff. But yeah, this is really beautiful. Cool. Whew. Man, that was a live stream and a half. That was 2 hours. Thanks so much to everybody for sticking around. And thank you so much to our new patrons. Simon, Leo, Brent Morales. You guys kick ass. Join the Discord. And yeah, das ist alles. Thank you so much, Instagram people. Y'all have an excellent evening. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. And yeah, thank you so much to everybody over here. New episode on Tuesday. Look forward to it. Love you guys. Have a good evening.